Welcome to Coffee with Democrats, a sensible platform for progressive conversations. Coffee with Democrats is a grassroots movement dedicated to hearing from Democrats, candidates, legislators, and friends from all political backgrounds who want great conversations. Coffee with Democrats is committed to increase Democrat voter registration and Democrat voter turnout by making voting more exciting and meaningful. And now here's your host of Coffee with Democrats, Kevin Dawson.
We're glad this day is finally here. My name is AJ Griffin, and we are all here today to support improving our democracy by reforming our closed, exclusionary system of primary elections. We're also here to share some important news about the future of this effort and to outline our next steps. But before we get to that, you should probably know who I am. Again, my name is AJ Griffin. I'm a lifelong Oklahoman, fourth generation, and I grew up on my family's farm in northeastern Oklahoma, a little town called Adair. We called it the town on the way to the lake. Back in the day, on the way to Grand Lake, it was the last stop for gas many years ago. I'm a proud OSU cowgirl host and a former educator and nonprofit executive, and today I am the CEO of the Potts Family Foundation. Along the way, I took a little stop and spent 6 years in the building over there. I'm working for better policy for Oklahomans. And I've done a lot of different things in my career, but the through line has always been trying to make Oklahoma a better place for the next generation. It's what gets me up in the morning, and it's what worries me late at night whenever I'm unable to sleep. To do that, we have to pursue real solutions to real problems. And that means we have to start by identifying our problems. So let's start by talking about a couple of our problems in Oklahoma. Number one, we are disengaged from our politics. In November of 2020 and November of 2024, just a few days ago, Oklahoma's voter participation was last in the nation. That's indicative of something that is very wrong. Secondly, the elections that most people participate in, our November general elections, they don't really matter. Yes, we just had a consequential presidential election. Did anybody pay attention to that one? I know I did. But in November, the elections are actually of little consequence most of the time. As an example, 86% of Oklahoma federal, state, and county offices either had no general election at all in November, or the one election that was held was inconsequential because there were not representatives from the two major parties. Only 6 of 77 county sheriff's elections had members of both parties on the ballot in November. And in fact, before the November elections, every single seat in the state legislature that was held by a Democrat before November 5th was held by a Democrat after November 5th. And every single seat held by a Republican stayed Republican. So if the November elections don't really matter, which do? The answer, of course, is the primaries in June and August. That's where the rubber meets the road when it comes to determining how our schools will be funded, how law enforcement agencies will operate, how we support transportation infrastructure, how we tax each other, and all of the other important issues. This is where we define the character of our state and our state government operations. But those are closed, small, exclusive affairs. As you know, currently Oklahoma has a closed primary system. The Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian parties hold their own taxpayer-funded primary and runoff elections, barring members from other parties from participating. Now, independents can vote in the Democrat, but the majority of the races are small and exclusive. And as a result of this closed system, the June primary elections have a less than 20% turnout. And August runoffs, generally less than 10% of the voters participate. Republicans in heavily Democratic areas where a Democratic legislator is selected and virtually coronated in the Democrat primary have no meaningful vote. The same can be said for Democrats in heavily Republican areas. And of course, the system is most unfair to independents, who make up more than 1 in 5 Oklahoma voters. There are over 480,000 independents in the Sooner State, and this voting bloc is growing at a faster rate than either of the major parties. The results of this unfair, exclusionary, closed system is that many Oklahomans can't vote. Therefore, they don't. They can't cast a meaningful vote in their election, even if there is an election that is held. And they don't believe our elected officials represent them or their interests, because the system is designed to keep it that way. And therefore, they've lost trust and confidence in our government. That is not a problem that can be ignored. In fact, it is a poison creeping through our system, and we need to fix it. The cure is election reform in the form of an open primary system. And so I want to introduce our next speaker, Oklahoma United founder and CEO, Margaret Kobos, to talk more about open primaries and then how they can help our democracy. And of course, we do have some exciting news for you. Margaret?
That happens every single time. When I pick up the phone and when I email, I am finding you, and that gives me strength, and it gives all of us strength to go forward. So I thank you for being here today. You all represent thousands of Oklahomans, friends of Oklahoma United, who have joined you in a search for an answer that is going to bring Oklahoma forward with consensus-driven government. Maybe you found us after reading an article, or you heard an interview on the radio, or you were in my living room, or you were on the corner outside my house and I pulled you in, because I've done it all. And our group has produced amazing events, the Tulsa State Fair, countless Common Sense Club meetings in homes. Where you are, we want to be. And we want to bring you all with us, and we thank you again for being here. Every single one of you cares deeply about doing the right thing for yourself and your children and our state. And I want to just take a minute to thank you. You'll just stand up and applaud yourselves. Behind Oklahoma United. And I just wanted to say that, we're going to talk about how we got here today, but first I have the privilege of giving you some news. Yesterday, late afternoon, 3 committed Oklahomans filed a citizen petition with the Oklahoma Secretary of State. It is proposing a constitutional amendment. And the proposal, when passed by a vote of the people, will end our state's closed primary system. And it will be replaced with an open primary system in which all lawfully registered voters will be able to vote in all elections. The number of 835. So we now have state question 835. It will be supported by a state question committee that will be called Vote Yes 835. Thank you. The petition filing kicks off the process for review and approval by the Secretary of State. Vote Yes 835 will be the first petition to proceed under new rules passed by the legislature last session, and it will be a learning process for all of us. Protest periods are now twice as long as they were in the past, and we have no doubt that party insiders will file objections and challenges. We will overcome these challenges, and we will get this petition in position for Oklahomans to sign. Once collected, all the signatures will be verified and the petition will be set for an election date. The petition has been filed this week in order to give us time to navigate all of those steps and get this in front of voters in November 2026. The petition will not affect the upcoming 2026 statewide races, including that for governor. We are embracing this opportunity and this timeline. We will not rush our petition. We will use every minute from now until November 2026 to reach out to Oklahoma voters everywhere in our state and explain what our petition is about. We will all have ample time to consider it and think about it and understand the merits of what we're trying to do. Our message starts with voting. Oklahoma is last in U.S. voter turnout. Inconceivably, our turnout percentage actually dropped even lower this fall than it was 4 years ago. So we were last before, and I guess we're more last now. Voting defines democracy. Voting informs our elected officials. Voting delivers consensus. Oklahoma needs more voters voting, but we also have to give our voters someone to vote for. The open primary petition delivers voters. The fastest growing group of voters in Oklahoma, the nearly 500,000 taxpayers registered as independents. Independents have been systematically excluded from voting in closed primaries, and we need to fix that, and this petition does it. Even better, under the open primary proposal, we will guarantee that all Oklahoma voters will have a voice and the right to choose the best candidate for the job in every statewide race, regardless of how you are registered or the candidate is registered, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or Independent. Simply put, all voters will be included. All voters will matter. All voters get more choices. Candidates will compete, and they are accountable to all of us. So all of this to say, this is the start of a movement we've been talking about here in Oklahoma for years. The effort to bring an open primary to our state is real. It's happening now. Thank you. Some people around the state are going to hear about this issue and open primaries for the first time today in the news. So I want to walk through an example or an illustration of what it will feel like when we have an open primary. So when we walk into our polling places on our primary election day, we approach the election table and we see the election volunteers who are working at the polls. We give them our ID, same as always. But here's where it gets different. We no longer have to tell anyone how we are registered. There is one table, one voter list, one ballot. Every voter is treated the same, no matter how you're registered in a party or not. We take a ballot. All candidates are listed with their party affiliations. We vote for the person we think is best for the job in every race, no matter how we are registered. And for the first time, all Oklahoma voters will be able to vote in every contested primary race. The two candidates with the most votes will go on to the general election. And of course, the candidate with the most votes in the general election wins. If this sounds familiar, it should, because that's how we voted in high school. And that is how we vote in every single town and city in the state of Oklahoma today. This is an Oklahoma solution to an Oklahoma problem. So before we hear from one of our courageous petitioners who stepped forward to take this on himself and put his name on that petition, I want to say something about how we got here today. This petition is not something that was cooked up elsewhere. It didn't emanate from Washington, D.C. We came up with this ourselves, kind of at my kitchen table. So in 2017, however, the Oklahoma Academy for State Goals studied and unanimously endorsed a top 2 open primary, even conducting at that time a poll, which proved strong support for very close to the policy that we're proposing today. Since then, many political figures in Oklahoma have been advocating strongly for this system. Mayor David Holt, Mayor G.T. Bynum, many other local mayors and state legislators have all been talking about this and thinking that someone should move forward with it. The conversation about our primaries, our low voter turnout, and giving all voters a voice has been constant for many years here. In 2021, almost 4 years ago, I founded Oklahoma United to find a way to improve voter engagement and enable responsive, consensus-driven government. Since then, our advocates, partners, interns, and many, many dozens of volunteers have helped us build more awareness about open primaries. We have been laser focused on Oklahoma's last in U.S. turnout in voter participation, why it matters, and what our options are to repair trust in government. We have held town halls, panels, burger nights, church group meetings, study groups, festivals, fairs, clubs. We've been everywhere. We've taken our cocktail napkins to many, many places, and we are really proud of the work that we've done. But it has been in cooperation with other groups who already were in place. And we're very, very happy to be able to support the ideas that have come from them and from the people and have brought us here today. We are scheduling a lot more activities starting right now through November 2026. We want you to be part of it, and we ask you to stay tuned because this is just the start. And so once again, I just want to thank everybody for showing up, being present, and taking interest in making Oklahoma the place where we want to be and we know our children want to be. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn this back over to AJ.
Thank you for all you've done, and she literally did start this at her kitchen table. Now we're going to hear from the petitioners that have filed a petition. We're going to start with Tony Stokey, one of the filers of State Question 835. Tony is an Edmond resident, a political independent, and a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard, and we're very excited to hear what he has to say. Tony?
Thank you. Thanks for being here. It's really exciting to see such support for our initiative petition. As AJ said, I'm Tony Stokey. I live in Edmonds. Moved there in 2022 after a 20-year career in the Coast Guard. Brought me to Oklahoma was the gravitational pull of Rachel. I want to take a moment to recognize our 2 other petitioners. Yvonne Kalman is not here with us today. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well, but she's a nonprofit worker from Oklahoma City. And Kenneth Stetter is here. Kenneth is a Tulsa resident. So the 3 of us, what we want to do is replace closed partisan primaries with an open system. And I want to start by telling you very simply why I believe in this, and then I'll give you a little bit more background. Over half of military service members, active duty and veterans, don't affiliate with a political party. They're independent, like me. And in Oklahoma, that means we don't get to vote in the election that matters. It really is as simple as that. When I moved to Oklahoma, I admit I didn't know what to expect from the Sooner State. I spent 10 years of my life at sea. We're pretty far from the ocean here. But in all honesty, I couldn't be more grateful. I actually really like Oklahoma. There's good-hearted people, It's a sense of community, and honestly, there's like an appreciation for veterans that I think is a little bit rare in the country today, and it feels great. But when I registered to vote, I did what I always have done. I didn't affiliate with a party and found out later that that meant I didn't get to vote in the primary. Really? So I've been told I have to pick a side before I even get a chance to see the candidates in order to vote in the most meaningful election. Frankly, this seems highly undemocratic, not very American, and it really doesn't make any sense. So I'm not going to dive in deep today about why I choose to be an independent, but I hope you can understand it really is, to me, a patriotic decision. As a commissioned officer, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. For me, it was a little easier to do that if I wasn't wearing the color of a uniform. But I have no problem with veterans or military people who do choose to do that. That's fine, that's their legal right. But for me, it was just easier to do it as an independent, so I've been doing it for quite a while. And I'm not alone, because in addition to the over half of veterans and military community who are independent, there's a surge in the United States of people who are not affiliated with a political party, particularly among our youth. Independents, as you've heard, are the fastest growing bloc in Oklahoma. So you can see it's not just about me, and it's not about the people in the room, it's bigger than us. And the current system that we have in place says to me and numerous others, your opinions don't matter. It doesn't matter that you serve your country, it doesn't matter if you're the future of this country, it doesn't matter how many of you there are. And to add insult to injury, my taxpayer dollars and your taxpayer dollars pay to fund the very election that I can't vote in. It's time to fix this. So at its core, this initiative is inclusive, it's fair, and it shifts the decision about who will represent the people closer to all of the people. And frankly, that seems highly democratic and very American, and frankly, it makes a lot of sense. So it's not a Republican cause, or a Democratic cause, or even an independent cause. It's an Oklahoma cause. And if I've learned one thing about Oklahoma, it is, as Margaret likes to say, a state where people don't like being told what to do. So it's time to make the change, deliver meaningful reform for this generation of Oklahomans and all the generations that come after us. And so I hope that you will join me in supporting State Question 825 as we work to gather the signatures that we need to get this issue to a vote of the people in November 2026 and make history. Thank you.
Attorney, thank you for your leadership on this issue, and definitely thank you for your service. Next, please join me in welcoming Dr. Donnie Nero, a distinguished educator and leader in Oklahoma. Dr. Nero's career spans nearly 40 years, beginning as a teacher and coach, progressing through roles as counselor, principal, and later as provost of Tulsa Community College Southeast Campus. In 2000, he made history as the first African-American president of Connors State College. His leadership has left a lasting legacy of impact with record enrollments and campus improvements at Connors. Dr. Nero is a champion of education, co-founding the Oklahoma African American Educators Hall of Fame, and serving on numerous boards. Today, he lives with his wife in Clearview, Oklahoma. Lovely small town, folks. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Nero.
Good morning. It is a privilege to be here this morning, all the way from the thriving metropolis of Clearview, Oklahoma. We're one of the original 13 historical black towns in Oklahoma. We'd love to see you. Thank you for having me today. It's a privilege to stand before you this morning to discuss this voting system, which is very inclusive to many in the state of Oklahoma. I come here as an educator in rural Oklahoma and a grandfather, and I spent many years working with young people, and now my grandchildren who are old enough to vote, I have to convince them that the system that we have in place today works. I've seen the ways in which many feel disillusioned about the system that is in place. Our young voters, those who are just starting out in this democratic process, they often feel that their voices don't matter, especially in this closed primary system that we have in the state of Oklahoma. So I want my former students, those who I pray that I have influenced, I want them and I want my grandchildren to understand that they can make a real change in the state of Oklahoma. We can do that by embracing the simple, powerful idea that we're discussing this morning. A unified ballot that allows every registered voter the opportunity to participate in every election. A unified ballot system gives every voice a chance to be heard, and it shows the young people that democracy really works in Oklahoma. And right now, the closed primary system that we have is telling a whole generation that they really don't matter, that their voices really don't count, that they have no stake in the choices that affect their lives. And as a rural voter, I also feel the weight of the system doesn't really always value or understand the rural voters of Oklahoma. Our schools, our farms, and our small communities, we have our own challenges, separate apart from what's going on nationwide or in Washington, D.C. But our closed primary system consistently pushes elected officials to ignore, in many cases and times, the issues that we face in rural Oklahoma. And an open primary or unified ballot would ensure the rural voices seeking a solution that we will be heard and that we will have a seat around the table. And by opening up the primary process to all registered voters, we can choose leaders who truly understand and respect rural Oklahomans. And finally, I want to address or talk about the African American community in the state of Oklahoma. Far too long, we have felt excluded from a system that has not included African Americans. The disenfranchisement to African American voters is very evident. And by keeping the existing primary process, it restricts and it silences the voice of so many historical African Americans who have been left out in the past and may continue to be overlooked or left out. So I've seen the frustrations in our communities, and I stated I have 2 grandchildren who are eligible to vote. And we've tried to get them to register them, and I think here we got to register. I don't know if they're voting because they don't feel that they're important to the system. And somehow we need to change that the sense of simply being a spectator in the system, it doesn't serve our purpose. And this unified ballot is a step forward to a fair and more inclusive system where everyone can vote. And this morning, in closing, I believe the unified ballot is about more than opening up primaries. It's about creating a democracy that reflects all of us, young people, older people, rural Americans, and African Americans in every Oklahoma community. So let's send a message. Let's send a message beginning today that every voice matters and that every community deserves to be represented. But let's fight for a system that encourages participation rather than discouraging it. Thank you once again for being here this morning. Thank you for standing with me today for our children, for our rural communities, and for a more inclusive Oklahoma. Together we can build a brighter, fairer future for all supporting State Question 835. Thank you.
For sharing with us. We appreciate your service and your passion for the next generation of Oklahomans. Next, we will hear from the President and CEO of the Oklahoma Academy. Julie Knudsen. The Academy's mission is to raise awareness of the issues, provide nonpartisan evidence-based research, and hold space for civil discourse and consensus building. They've been helping to generate constructive public policy since 1967. Welcome, Julie Knudsen.
Thank you, AJ, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to address an issue that is pivotal to the future of our democratic process here in Oklahoma, the way we conduct our elections. Today, I want to highlight a major consensus recommendation on the Oklahoma Academy Town Hall Conference, which was very recently held, that deserves all of our careful consideration and support. Very quickly, for those of you who may not have heard of the Oklahoma Academy, the Town Hall Conference is held annually and is our major program of work. From a pool of nominees, many Oklahomans are selected to participate that sociodemographically and statistically represent Oklahoma's population. They spend 3 days very collaboratively and, importantly, very civilly discussing the topic under focus, and ultimately they create a set of consensus findings and recommendations aimed to benefit all Oklahomans, better the state, and provide solutions for the problem under focus. October 27 through 30, the Academy Town Hall Conference focused on the effects of polarization. The title was Politics, Primaries, Polarization. But what about the Oklahoma people? A similar town hall, as Margaret mentioned, was held in 2017, focusing on voters and the election system. Many excellent recommendations resulted from that town hall, and several have been implemented. But the top recommendation to this issue was to move Oklahoma from a primary-based approach to a top-2 open primary system. From this recently held 2024 town hall and its participants, the Academy now strongly recommends that the state of Oklahoma adopt an open primary election system. The system would have 2 key components. Number 1, all candidates, regardless of party affiliation, would appear on a unified open ballot for all eligible voters. And number 2, the listing of party affiliation for each candidate would be shown on the ballot. First and foremost, an open primary empowers all voters. Under our current system, access to certain primaries is restricted by party affiliation, leaving a significant portion of Oklahomans without a voice in the critical early stages of the electoral process. This means nearly half of our state's registered voters are effectively excluded from shaping the choices they will seek in the general election. By moving to an open primary, every voter, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, and Independent, has the right to weigh in on all candidates, not just those in their own party. This change ensures that elections are not just a tool for political deciders, but importantly, a true reflection of the will of all the candidates. Including party affiliation on the ballot provides essential context for voters while preserving their transparency. This approach acknowledges that party identity often informs candidates' platforms and policy and to make informed decisions without limiting their choices by deciding. An open primary election system also encourages candidates to appeal to a broader constituency. Instead of focusing solely on their party's base, candidates would be incentivized to address the needs and concerns of the whole electorate. This shift could reduce the polarization that often dominates our political landscape and foster a culture of collaboration and compromise. Ultimately, this recommendation is about trust. Trust in the intelligence and the fairness of the people of Oklahoma. It affirms that every voice matters, regardless of party affiliation, and that our elections should reflect the collective will of the people, not just a subset of them. The Oklahoma Academy Town Hall's recommendation is not about favoring one party over another. It's about putting voters first. It's about creating a system where every Oklahoman has the freedom to shape the future of our state. Today, the first step has been taken to create a system that is more inclusive, more transparent, and ultimately more representative of the values that we hold dear as Oklahomans. Let's seize this opportunity to strengthen our democracy and ensure that it truly serves all the people of Oklahoma. Thank you so much. Julie, I didn't realize you had that short of So thank you, Julie. Thank you to the Oklahoma Academy. I've gone through a couple of those town halls. It's an excruciatingly long and difficult process, but so unbelievably important to hear from people of varying Oklahoma backgrounds. And they came up with this idea separately from this initiative, and I'm glad to see that we're doing it together. So I'm excited to get this effort underway. The talking heads have stopped now. We're going to stop, and we're going to start getting down to work. So let the work begin. I believe, as someone who has served in public office and been under the pressure that our system creates, when you're trying to serve a constituency that is varied, where everyone's voice really does matter, that's hard work. And our elected officials are to be commended for the work that they do. Our system excludes a lot of those as voters, and it focuses on a narrow few. We're trying to change that. Not necessarily because we're going to change the results, but definitely because we're going to change the engagement, and that Oklahomans get an opportunity to be connected again with their government. Dead last for voter turnout is not good enough. It's not good enough for me, and it definitely is not good enough for Oklahoma. I will not accept that as a public servant in this state. When we let every voter vote, we can begin to turn the system around. I have a mantra in my life that I'm kind with people and I am brutal with systems. This is a system that needs us to be brutal with it. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for your interest in the launching of State Question 835. And let's let the Oklahoma voters know what it can do for them. I'm going to turn this back over to Alex so he can handle the questions you might have. Alex?
So we're going to take some questions from our friends in the press, but a couple orders of business first. The sun's out, I've been standing for a long time. If anyone is here who needs to sit down, please feel free to do so. You're welcome to stay here if you don't have to. Another thing is, in about 10 minutes, when we're done Q&A here, the Oklahoma United team and anyone who'd like to be involved, we're going to go outside to the left, take a big group photo, we have some signs, and we're excited to do that. So everyone is welcome who'd like to I'd like to do that. And so now I'm going to sort of facilitate the Q&A here. Do we have a microphone for anyone asking questions? What we do in that materializes great. Otherwise, if you have a question, you're a member of the press, just tell us who you're with and what your name is and what your question is. Barbara.
You go into the general election, do you vote for the Republican and the Democrat for this proposal or not?
Yes, the question was, if Barbara, what is the question?
In the general election, do you go in and vote for the Republican candidate and the Democrat and the president?
No, so in both the primary and the general, you as a voter would get one vote for each office. So you could vote if you're looking at a race for state legislature, a Republican, Democrat, and independent, for instance, would appear on one ballot. You would cast one vote. The top two vote getters would go to a November general, and you would cast one vote for that office in the general. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and the follow-up question, what feedback have you gotten from the Democrat Party, Libertarian Party, and the Republican Party?
Yeah. Pat, do you want to speak to this, or? No. Sure. Well, so you're asking about the party. I would say that I would answer the question in two ways. One is, and Margaret, if she wants, can answer this more extensively than me, but we have been, for Margaret's, for 3 years now, has been meeting with Republicans and Democrats and independents all over the state and talking to voters about what they want to see to improve the way our elections and our democracy works. And Coleman Academy is a great example of that. Assembling a representative, body of Oklahomans. So I think that grassroots work, combined with early survey research, and also combined with the idea that this is already essentially the system being used for municipal elections, although we add party identification to this kind of open primary, gives us the strong belief that Oklahomans of every party or no party are supportive of this, and we're confident in that. Margaret, yes, please.
I think my nickname should be Captain Obvious. So, number one, we do not have any official ties to any party as a group. Oklahoma United is all about just people, normal people, or not normal people, just Oklahoma people. And so if you're a people here, then you're on our team. If you hate politics the way they are, then you need to be on our team, because we want to change it and we want to make it better. Now, the Democratic Party has already, for some time, voluntarily included independents in their primaries. So I've watched the news, and I don't have any contact with them, but I know that in the past they have said that this proposal, they don't think it would really change how they do business. And so I guess it won't. And that's all I can say is that the only other thing I wanted to add is that when many of you start talking about parties and like how the parties feel, you're kind of missing the point. Because the point is the people, not parties. So we know that through our research that you can live in Tahlequah or you can live in Oklahoma City, and you may be a member of a party or not, but you all are thinking the same thing about an issue. And so what we're trying to do is connect those personal opinions and issues to the elected officials. And so it has nothing to do with parties, although I appreciate, the question. We're just about the people. So that's it.
Alex McNutt with NonDoc. People vote on it in November 2026. If passed, when will it take effect? When's the first election that this will take effect?
It would take effect 90 days after the ballot initiative passes. And what that means is for any office where the filing deadline is 90 days after the election, which we hope and anticipate will be in November 2026.
Hey, it's Hunter with Channel 4. I know there's certain, I guess, it's not presidential, not for certain things. How did that decision come and why was that kind of ultimately created?
Pat Farah, CMA Strategies. Reality is we can't affect the presidential, where the presidential system is different. And so what we have to do is capture every election that's already decided in partisan primaries. And so we're doing all the partisan primary approaches here. So judicial races are already largely done in this manner, although they don't have a partisan label on them. Municipal, school board, those races are already allow people to vote. So it's doing everything else from the county level through the state offices.
Hi, my name is Lionel Ramos with KBC Public Radio. It's a little unclear how run-ups would be affected. Could you elaborate a little bit on how those would get you?
Yes, so there would be no runoff. There would be a primary election, top two vote getters move on to a general election. The winner of the general election is.
I had one more, sorry. Do you think that independents may have changed their party affiliation to say Republican so they could vote, since currently that's not a thing?
Sure. I don't know the answer to that, but I will say, you know, as recently as, I'm going to read this statistic here. In 1996, 5% of the voting population in Oklahoma was an independent. Today it's 20%. So we're talking about a voting bloc that has just exploded. It's the fastest growing voting bloc. And so I don't, you know, in terms of independents, you know, becoming Democrats or becoming Republicans so they can participate in those primaries, you know, our philosophy is A, they shouldn't have to, but B, we're not seeing that. We're seeing the opposite of that, which is this block of independents just growing every single year, and they're being disenfranchised actively.
It's Keith Ross with Oklahoma Watch. There was a similar question on the ballot in South Dakota a few weeks ago that failed pretty significantly. Is that any cause for concern?
I'm going to give a short answer, and then if someone else wants to give a longer answer, they can. But, you know, we are addressing very specific Oklahoma problems. Oklahoma is 50th in the nation in voter turnout. None of these other states are. We're last. And we all think that that's, you know, a problem that just cannot stand. And a big reason for it is all these independent voters, as well as others who are being disenfranchised by the closed primary system. So, no, you know, we think that we have an Oklahoma problem with an Oklahoma solution. As we said, we've modeled this off of our municipal elections. It's not a copycat of any other state proposal. You know, our early conversations and grassroots work has just demonstrated a huge amount of support across the state, as well as some of the work Pat's done. You know, we believe we're starting in a position of strength, and that this is going to be a popular measure. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm not with the media.
Okay. And then, go ahead.
I'm Rhonda Belmont Smith. I'm the chairman of the Tulsa County Republican Party, and you continue to compare with municipal races. So how's voter turnout on those municipal races? Your school board and city council races.
Thanks, Ron. I'll be happy to answer that. Turnout's not been good on those. I agree. And I'm for, not speaking for this group, I'm for anything that gets more people to vote at other times as well. We did see in Tulsa, the mayor's race, and that there's some unique things there about it. We actually had higher turnout in that election than we have for other municipal elections, because some of them November ballot. People know when to vote in primaries and general elections. They don't know these other ballots. So I don't think your comparison is really great unless you talk about the Tulsa mayor's race.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think, going back to what some of our speakers have said, a real problem that certainly this ballot initiative is designed to solve is the election that most people participate in is in November. And increasingly, those November elections have become more and more meaningless. And in fact, a lot of your elected representatives aren't even on the ballot because they're going out right in the primary, because they're running unopposed. And again, so what we're proposing is a system in which every November election is meaningful, every voter can vote, and every vote is meaningful. And that's what we're attempting to bring to Oklahoma. Absolutely. And then, Margaret, I think after your remarks here, let's go outside and take our video.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, so, Rhonda, thanks for your question. So, a couple of years ago, we were at the Tulsa State Fair, where we like to go and smell like corn dogs. And a guy came up in his cowboy hat from Enid, and he said, in response to my question, like, what do you think is going to happen if we have an open primary? And he said, well, if we let everybody vote, then basically there's no complaining later. Right now we have a system in which a lot of people just can't vote and they don't have choices in front of them. And then they complain and we're wringing our hands, but we're not giving them the opportunity to participate. So what Craig said from Enid is, let's let everybody vote. And no matter what happens, what the result is, then we know that everybody had a chance to be heard. We all had the opportunity, and we cannot go forward in a state with any kind of realistic plans and goals unless we know everybody's kind of bought in or had the opportunity to buy in. So are we going to see more voters? Well, the data says yes, but I can't guarantee that. Nobody can guarantee it. What we can guarantee is that you have a choice and you have the opportunity. So, okay, so anybody who wants a day drinking beer or a sausage, we're going to host everyone following this at the Fassler Hall, which is really close by. We'd love to see you there. If you just want to hang out, some of the media, you're welcome to come and hang out with us. We just want this to be a great day to celebrate a huge milestone, a great achievement that all of you here have made happen. And so that's our plan. And Shelby Iker's going to play a little bit more, but we're going to gather for that photo, and then we're going to go have a hot dog. So thank you again, and all of our glorious